Please join me in welcoming our final speaker of the day, Brian Moss. Brian Moss is Director of Addiction Prevention and Mentoring Programs at Aluna and oversees Camp Mariposa, an award-winning, evidence-informed addiction prevention and mentoring program for youth affected by a family member's substance use disorder. Camp Mariposa is currently offered in 17 locations across the United States, as well as one location in Canada. Mr. Moss has over 30 years of experience working with youth and families from diverse backgrounds. He holds a Master's of Art degree from LaSalle University. Mr. Moss has written articles featured in national magazines and has presented nationally at conferences such as the Child Welfare League of America, the National Association for Drug Endangered Children, and the National Mentoring Summit. Please welcome Brian Moss.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today. I actually just got back a couple hours ago from a quick vacation for a couple days. So I'm nice and fresh and ready to go. So I'm here to share today about Camp Mariposa, the program that I run. That really is helping youth and families break the intergenerational cycle of addiction. Very much like Trish before me, I grew up in a family that's been significantly impacted by substance use disorder. Multi-generations, grandparents, aunts, uncles, but most significantly, my mom struggled with her own substance use disorder and mental health issues throughout her adult life and my childhood. And she died from her disease of addiction back in 2003. So I see myself, like many of the kids that we work with in Camp Mariposa. So I'll tell you a little bit more now about the program. So Camp Mariposa is a collaboration between Aluna, which is the nonprofit I work for, and our major funding source, which is OJJDP, the Department of Justice. They have a really fantastic mentoring stream of funding. And they have, over the last few years, done a lot of work to support youth affected by the opioid crisis. In addition, we work with community groups in 17 locations across the US to actually implement the Mariposa program. The closest one to the Memphis area is in Eastern Tennessee, in Dandridge. And there we partner with WestCare Kentucky. So I won't go over the objectives. You can just read them quickly. So just to give you an overview of addiction in the United States, there's about 100 million people impacted by substance use disorder in the US. One of a great resource, if you haven't ever taken a look at it, it's out about 5 years now. The Surgeon General's report on alcohol, drugs, and health. It was done by Vivek Murthy, who was the last Surgeon General under the Obama administration and is now back in that role. So that's a great source of information. Other things that I look to for reliable information is the CDC, SAMHSA. I know that Trish had cited some work from NIH, which is also a great resource. NIDA, if anyone works with teenagers, I think they have good resources for teenagers, as well as the Partnership to End Addiction. So just again, I'm sure you're all aware of the spike in overdose deaths. So this I thought was just a good infographic showing the steep increase. And I had just seen this week actually that the 2020 data, so through the end of December of last year, just came out. And it's higher than this number. It's over 93,000, 93,331 actually. And that is an increase of 20,000 since the previous high in 2019. So the pandemic is really impacting overdose deaths in the US. As far as the impact of substance use on kids and teenagers, the thing I highlight with this infographic is 90% of addictions, substance use disorders start in the teenage years. So that's why prevention is so key. And then, the second stat, 1 in 6 teens have used medicine to get high. So there was a 2019 study that got released in Pediatrics. It was work from Columbia University that looked at 9 years of data. And teens were 30% more likely to misuse pain pills if parents did. So, that is really important to think about when you're working with kids who have parents who struggle with a substance use disorder. To give you a sense of the overall impact on youth, there's almost 9 million kids in the US who live with a parent who struggles with a and I know that Trish touched on a number of these things about the impact of substance use on kids. So the thing I'll highlight from this tile is really the last part, that the kids are at far greater risk to suffer from depression and anxiety. So that is true both while they're growing up as well into adulthood. And so one of the things that we've done in our programming is to implement a suicide prevention program. We use SOS, it works well in our program model. And with that, there's a BSAD screening tool for depression and anxiety. We implement it twice a year in our programming. And every time we do it, there's anywhere between 10% to 50% of the youth in our program who score high. Almost always, there's a young person, a youth, a teenager who asked to speak with one of the counselors in the program or the mental health professionals who were there when the program's implemented. And I think one of the really great things about implementing this program for us is that it really is affecting community level change. So in many of our programs across the country, youth in the program will talk about friends who they're concerned about, and they wind up actually helping their friends as well. And I think the SOS program is a great resource. It has a simple message that's easy to understand. The acronym is ACT, Acknowledge, Care, Tell, and it really does work to reduce stigma. One of the things with kids who live with an addicted family member, they are 4 times more likely than their peers to develop their own early substance use disorder. And so they're at extreme high risk for developing that, all the youth that we work with in our program. Just quickly on a couple of levels, the impact of substance use. The first one that I'll highlight on this tile is that the youth in our program are socially isolated. Most of the time that they come to the program, they report not knowing other kids who struggle, who have family members who struggle with a substance use disorder. The other thing that I wanted to just highlight is that 43%, so almost half the kids in our program agreed or strongly agreed with the statement, "I am lonely." So that shows the level of isolation for many of the youth we work with. The second thing I'll highlight on this is the youth in our program are often witnesses or targets of violence and abuse. And so we're a data-informed program, so we really do collect a lot of data to understand, the youth we're serving, the families we're serving, as well as the impact of the program. So the most recent data actually from 2021 is that 60% of the youth in the program have experienced at least one type of abuse or neglect, and 42%, so getting close to 50%, have experienced multiple types of abuse or neglect. And one of the things that we've learned over the last 15 years the program's been in existence, the number of youth reporting incidences of abuse and neglect actually increases over time. So youth are able to participate in the program for multiple years. As families become more comfortable, as caregivers become more comfortable, we see that number increasing over time as we build relationships with families. There's a clear connection between substance use and juvenile crime. So, all the youth who are participating in the program are at high risk for both developing their own early substance use as well as becoming involved in the juvenile justice system. So one of our primary goals, one of our top two goals actually, is to reduce or eliminate involvement in the juvenile justice system. And our most recent data is really strong in this regard, 98% of the youth. So that's 9-year-olds all the way up through 17-year-olds who participate in our weekend and day camp programs. 98% have not been involved in the juvenile justice system. So that's something we are really excited about and proud of. On a family level, one of the stats or one of the challenges faced by our youth is grief and loss. So again, the most recent data from 2021 is that 84% of youth in our program report experiencing grief and loss. Sorry, I just saw something pop up. 84% experience grief or loss, with 2/3, so about 66% experiencing some type of parental loss. So for us in the program, that is most often an overdose death of a parent, incarceration of a parent due to substance use disorder, or a loss of a relationship with the parent. 3/4 of the youth in the program have a family history of mental health issues, often with multiple members of their family. And the last stat I'll just talk about briefly is on the family level is that 56%, so over 50% of the youth in the program have been in foster care or kinship care at some point during their childhood. And this is a number that really has gone up in the last few years. It used to be somewhere in the 40s, and now it's over 50%, 56%. So just most of these we've talked about, but one of the other one of the other impacts on youth and families is that substance use really does increase poverty, or affects poverty in the family. And so 84% of youth qualify for free school lunches. And a higher number than that would actually qualify for reduced, but that's just the free school lunches. And then you can see we serve a racially diverse group of youth. So this is something that I just came across just actually in the last few weeks when we got stats from the first half of the year. So I think you can really see the impact of COVID on substance use and the families that we serve. So these are the numbers. We started asking a couple of years ago about substances that family members use. And so these are significant increases. Most of them are in the neighborhood of 15 to 20% increases 1 year from 2020. So you can really see the impact of the pandemic on substance use in the families that we serve. So now I'll talk about the program. Camp Mariposa is an award-winning program. It's a national program. It's an addiction prevention and mentoring program. We were the first program in the country, the first prevention program in the country to receive an innovation award from the Addiction Policy Forum. And that was just about 4 years ago now. And our program in Nashua, New Hampshire, several years ago, 3 years ago, was named the best health and wellness program in the National Boys and Girls Club network. So we partner in Nashua with the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Nashua, and they were awarded the best health and wellness program. So one thing I always like to mention is that all of the programming offered by Camp Mariposa and actually by Aluna, our parent organization, are offered free of charge to families. So there's never a cost for youth or families to participate. Our overall goal for Mariposa is to break the intergenerational cycle of addiction by giving kids coping skills and building resilience. So that's the overall goal, to break that cycle. The clinical architect of the program is Dr. Claudia Black. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of her, but if you're not, I would highly recommend reading some of her works. So she has been working in the area of the impact of substance use on kids and families for decades now. And she had two of her most important books were republished in 2020 and updated. One is It Will Never Happen to Me, and the second one is Straight Talk. I would definitely recommend picking those up if you haven't read them. And then she also released a book in the late I think maybe 2018, called Unspoken Legacy. And that really looks at the intergenerational nature of substance use disorders. So Claudia Black was the clinical architect. She helped design the program back in 2007. On top of that, we've built upon and incorporated work from Jerry Moe at Hazelton Betty Ford, as well as Sis Wenger at NACOA. And I would say one of the organizing principles of the program really is to break down the family rules in families where there is a substance use disorder. So those rules are: don't talk, don't trust, and don't feel. So, one of the things that the program really emphasizes and does well is creating a community for youth who have a family member who struggles with a substance use disorder, creating a community for them where they are able to build trust with other kids, with trained adult mentors. They're able to express what they're feeling and to talk about what's going on in their families. So quickly go over some of the other goals. I'll just pop these up so you can see them. So, the first two, it's a long-term program. Youth are able to participate for a year or more. The reality is that we have many youth who participate for 3, 4, 5 years. So first goal is to create a positive peer support network where youth are able to connect with other kids who have been through similar situations, connect them with trained, caring adult mentors. And the other one at the bottom, which I think is so important, and Trish had talked about this in the last presentation, is really letting kids be kids. For so many of the youth in our program, for so many kids where there is substance use in their family, that often gets lost. So the program really emphasizes as one of its primary goals to let kids be kids. So it's a really comprehensive program. I'll give you an overview, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the pieces maybe that you would be able to incorporate into the work that you're already doing. So the core group for the program are youth ages 9 through 12 who have a close family member who struggles with a substance use disorder. Most often that is a parent. About 90% of the time, that's a parent. So we do follow a group and a peer mentoring model. So for us, that means a small group of youth, just 25 to 30 on any given program activity. And then on top of that, there's 10 to 15 mentors. Those are trained adults who go through a screening process and are trained specifically to work with youth who have a family member struggling with a substance use disorder. And then there's also 2 to 5 junior counselors or peer mentors. So those are teens who have gone through the program, have an interest and skill set, and want to participate and continue their involvement as peer mentors. The core are 6 free camp weekends held every other month throughout the year. So we do use an outdoor adventure-based model. And so it's a Friday night through Sunday morning. And like I said, the core group are 9 to 12-year-olds for those camp weekends. It's a combination of traditional camp activities, so things like hiking, swimming, campfires, s'mores, those kinds of activities, and combining them with educational and support activities. I want to just say, when I do these presentations, I'm sure many of you are aware of this. In order to develop a program and really sustain it long term, you do need to look for evidence-based programming. So, we incorporate, I mentioned the Signs of Suicide program, which is an evidence-based suicide prevention curriculum, but we also implement the Too Good for Drugs program as well. We're just now beginning to do that. We went through a training with the Mendez Foundation with all of our partners across the country. So we're really excited to be able to implement that going forward. On top of it, some things that we do provide our partners is the Children's Program Kit, which is a great resource. They have good data to support the effectiveness of it, but it is not evidence-based, but it's the Children's Program Kit from NACOA. I think that's a really great resource that can be utilized in a lot of community settings. The other thing I'll just put a plug for is really from the beginning, getting an evaluation or connecting with a local university, researchers. That is so critical, again, for long-term funding. Initially we did not engage with researchers. We now do. We have for the last 5 years. Our primary research partner, evaluation partner, is Louisiana State University. We've also worked with Clemson University and as well as an evaluator from Indiana University, Purdue University. So just a plug for the importance of evaluation. One of the things that we now have begun really building out is our teen programming. So for probably the last 8 years or so, we have had that junior counselor peer mentor program. And like I said, that's teenagers who went through the program, have the interest, have the skill set. Now, for this year for 2021 and also for 2022, we're really putting an emphasis on expanding the teen programming to serve teens who may not have the interest or the skill set to be a peer mentor. So, one of our partners recently had a day camp for teenagers. So it had some prevention activities, but then they also incorporated, it was in Southern California, they incorporated surf lessons and a day at the beach. So that was a really fun activity for that program. And then we have another partner in the New Orleans area, and they've begun recently to offer college visits and help teenagers in the program think about post-high school. So that is the teen programming. We'll talk a little bit about family involvement later on, but in between the camp weekends, every other month, we also have activities for families, for youth, and for mentors. We'll talk more about the family activities. And now we just opened up our 17th location in the US, in the Indianapolis area. And we are in the process of opening our first international location in Toronto, in Canada. So this is I love this picture. So this is one of the core activities of the program. It's called the Letter to Addiction. And so youth are able to write free form how addiction, how substance use has impacted their lives. And so this is a picture of a youth who's reading the letter. So every youth who participates has the opportunity to read the letter and then throw it in the campfire. It's a really powerful activity, and a lot of the youth who participate say that's the most impactful piece of programming that we do. And that's something that actually came out of the Children's Program Kit from NACOA. So I think that's something to check out as well. Another piece that we've incorporated is this was developed, the 7 C's was developed by Jerry Moe at Hazelton Betty Ford. And so we have incorporated that. This is one of the core principles. in the programming. The first 3 C's are: I didn't cause it, can't control it, can't cure it. So many of the youth that we serve come in thinking of that if they didn't fight with their siblings, if they just did their homework, they cleaned up their rooms, their family member, their parent would not use substances. So getting that message across that they're not the cause of their family members' substance use. And then the last 4 are, we put a lot of emphasis. So many times partners will say pick self-care or communication as a theme for a weekend. And so these are these C's can easily be integrated into other programming that you might be doing now. The one that I like to highlight is the celebration. A lot of our programming focuses on recognizing accomplishments, celebrating achievements, the importance of rituals around holidays. That often gets lost. We do a lot in our programming celebrating birthdays, graduations from the program. When youth turn 13, they graduate from the program and can now move on to participate in the teen programming. And the other thing that we've added very recently is celebrating the families that participate in the program. We recognize it's a big commitment to get their youth to the program 6 times a year for the weekends, as well as the family activities. And so we recognize the involvement and the support of caregivers. And then I'll just highlight in the picture, this is a nice project that we do. We have local businesses that support us. We had just recently had our local Blue Cross do some of these touchstones. They're just small little acrylic circles, and they're positive messages that volunteers make. So those say, you're strong, be yourself, love yourself, you rock, feel the love, don't let them dull your spirit. So it's a nice project that can engage members of your community. And if you're interested in that, I'd send you information about that if you reach out. So now I'll talk just about some of the components maybe that you can think about incorporating if that are part of the program. So certainly the coping skills is a big piece of the work that we do. This is a nice quote from Angelique, talking about some of the coping skills that she's learned. Some of the stuff that we do on a regular basis is yoga. We also put an emphasis on mindfulness. We do a lot, I would say most of our partners incorporate mindfulness jars that youth, it's an arts and craft activity that youth can do, take home with them and use them. And zones of regulation is another great coping skill program. That's social emotional curriculum that helps youth both recognize their emotions, their feelings, as well as manage them, contain them. And that's something that we incorporate into our regular programming. And then the last thing I'll highlight with coping skills, we have a great partnership with a group out on the West Coast, Art with Heart. And so they created a really great art expression kind of book that we incorporate into our programming. And that's something you can check out as well. So I like this quote just because it shows, despite facing some significant challenges, the youth in our program do have a positive outlook. Just, the last sentence, my past isn't my future. I really like that. 75% of the youth, this is from a recent survey we did, 75% said, I will be happy, as well as I will have friends I can count on when I'm older. So I like the positive outlook. So another core piece is mentoring. There's two types of mentors in our program. The first is trained adult mentors, and the second are the peer and the junior counselors. So for us, it's really critical to have a mix of mentors, a mix of adults in the program. So we definitely have a clinical mentors, folks with clinical backgrounds, but we also have, frontline workers who work with youth on a regular basis. That could be nurses, teachers. We also incorporate young college age students. Those are often some of the most popular mentors with our kids. They're a great addition to programming. Kids really gravitate to them. They can be a great source of inspiration for the youth in our program. The other piece is the peer or the junior counselor. I really think the junior counselors are key to our success of the program. They've gone through the program. They understand what youth have gone through. And for me, overseeing the network, one of the really exciting things now is that we have junior counselors who started out as campers, became junior counselors, and are now becoming full-fledged trained adult mentors. And you can become an adult mentor once you turn 18. So we're really excited to have former campers now becoming adult mentors. All right, there we go. So nice picture of just mentors and some of the youth in the program having fun on a camp weekend. We just completed a mentor focus group, so I thought this was interesting to share. So, one of the big findings from it is that mentors want training. So, every mentor, every adult who participates is required to go through 3 hours of training at a minimum per year, really focusing on trauma-informed care, the impact of substance use on kids. But what, in the focus groups, one of the things was they want ongoing training. They've talked about booster trainings a lot. The importance of support of mentors, support for folks working with kids who have been impacted by substance use. It's not easy work. So regular check-ins with them, as well as, fun things like potluck, social get-togethers outside of the program. The last thing on this is the importance of self-care. So, one of the things we found out is that many of the mentors said they use the 7 C's themselves in their daily lives. There's a nice quote from Adam, just talking about, him liking being a junior counselor and having little kids look up to him. So, I'm just looking at the time actually. So, building connections, I feel like we've talked about that. That's key. So building connections with other kids, with multiple mentors. So it's a group model. So the youth are able to connect with all different kinds of mentors, as well as the junior counselors. So another nice quote from Mark. And then, the thing I highlight with this is there's often multi-level change with Mariposa. So Mark's mom, while he was in the program, got sober and graduated from drug court. So we really do believe in the importance of recreational activities, teaching kids to make healthy choices, learn how to take healthy risks and have fun. So that's, one of the kinds of activities. That's a high ropes course where kids get to hang from trees and climb in between trees. Just to highlight the kind of the top two stats. So the one I mentioned already, 98% of youth have not been involved in the juvenile justice system, and 95% have not used any substance to get high. So the program is succeeding in breaking that cycle of addiction. So let me take a break and see. Are there questions?
Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, so we have a couple. Sorry about that. I see a couple of questions here about people asking about volunteer opportunities. Is that something that y'all do?
Yes, yeah, we definitely are always looking for volunteers. So, to be a one of the full-fledged mentors, we ask for a 4 camp weekend commitment. So to attend 4 of the 6 camp weekends for the year. So we really do look for mentors who can attend consistently. So we ask that for both the mentors and the youth and the families who participate. So I'll put in my information. It's on the last tile as well. And you can reach out to me and I can connect you with the partner in Eastern Tennessee. Oops.
Perfect, thank you. And somebody else is asking if you offer any outside training outside of the camp.
We do, yeah. So again, if you reach out to me, it's something that we're beginning to do more. So we do like to do training. So yeah, if you reach out to me, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Sorry, just reading through the questions. Somebody asked, do children, do they get access to other resources outside of the camp to continue to cope with the effects of substance abuse within the family?
Yeah, so that's, so we partner with primarily with youth focus groups in the community. So it could be like we partner, I mentioned the Boys and Girls Club, but we partner with groups that, are family focused, that maybe do some job training, that also do food, things like that. And so for us, that's key because our partners in the community know the resources, and through family activities, because youth and families participate for a year or more, they do develop good relationships with parents and caregivers, and can connect youth with mental health counselors and things like that as well. So yes.
Perfect, thank you. And then somebody was asking if you could elaborate a little bit on the referral process and what that looks like.
Yep. So if you go to alunanetwork.org, so it's ELUNA network.org. And if you click on, there's the Tennessee location, and you could click on that, and you can find the local director and reach out to them. And you can also reach out to me and I'll connect you as well.
Perfect. And I'm seeing another question. Somebody's asking, kind of, what does the process look like after the kids turn 18?
Mhm. So as far as follow up or
Yeah, I guess just like, are there any other like programs or services that are for after they turn 18?
yeah, I mean our focus is really on youth and teenagers. So I think on the local level, so we do have like I said, junior counselors who are now becoming full-fledged mentors. We actually just offered our first scholarship to a Camp Mariposa alum to attend post high school, college, or technical school. So that's something new that we're doing. So yeah.
That's awesome. We have one last question for you. Somebody wants to know, what's the most challenging barrier that you've encountered while working with children?
So I think, just across the board, and I'm sure you all know this, the stigma around substance use. And I would say getting the commitment from families to let their kids, and often, so about 40% of our kids live with grandparents. So like grandparents letting their kids go off to a weekend camp program where they don't know the people in the beginning, and I would say that is probably the biggest challenge. And then also just knowing that kids do go back to challenging situations often at home, and the lack of other resources for youth. I mean, I love that Trish was on right before this, and I think that's such a phenomenal resource. I give you kudos for focusing on kids, because that's not always the case. So.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on and telling us a little bit about what y'all do. You have been amazing, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come talk with us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.